Have you ever stared up at the stars and felt something stir inside you, like the universe was reflecting something back? Why does the spiral of a galaxy resemble the swirl of a seashell, or even the shape of your own DNA? Why do ancient temples mirror constellations? Why do the patterns in nature echo the patterns in our own minds and emotions? These aren't coincidences, they're signals. They hint at a deeper law, one that mystics, philosophers, and initiates of ancient traditions have passed down quietly through time. As above, so below. It sounds simple, almost like a poetic saying, but it's far more than that. This phrase comes from the Hermetic teachings, rooted in ancient Egypt and later carried through the mystery schools of Greece, Rome, and beyond. It's a guiding principle in esoteric thought, a blueprint that reveals the hidden symmetry between the cosmos and the human soul. But most people today treat it like a vague metaphor. They miss the deeper truth. This principle is a key to understanding reality itself, the connection between spirit and matter, the inner and the outer, the microcosm and the macrocosm. In this video, we're going to explore what this phrase really means, its origins, its esoteric depth, and why it still matters today. Because once you understand this concept, not just with your mind, but with your being, it shifts how you see everything. As above, so below isn't just a phrase, it's a mirror, and it's speaking to you. Origins of the phrase. To understand the real meaning of as above, so below, we need to go back, way back, to the roots of Western esoteric thought. This phrase comes from a text known as the Emerald Tablet, or Tabula Smaragdina, a short cryptic piece of writing attributed to Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes was considered a mythical figure, said to be a fusion of the Egyptian god Thoth and the Greek god Hermes, both of whom were associated with wisdom, writing, and the transmission of divine knowledge. The Emerald Tablet is one of the foundational texts of Hermetic philosophy, a tradition that has shaped everything from alchemy and astrology to Gnosticism, Kabbalah, and even early science. Despite its brevity, the tablet contains layers of meaning that initiates have studied for centuries. The full line from the Emerald Tablet reads, "That which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below to accomplish the miracle of the one thing." This isn't just poetic symmetry. It's a statement about cosmic structure, that everything in existence, from the smallest particle to the largest star, is governed by the same fundamental laws. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm. The inner reflects the outer. The soul reflects the cosmos. Reality is fractal. But this idea wasn't exclusive to Hermeticism. Similar teachings can be found across the ancient world. In Hindu philosophy, the individual soul, Atman, is said to mirror the universal spirit, Brahman. In Platonism, the visible world is only a shadow of the eternal forms, a lower echo of a higher reality. In Kabbalah, the tree of life is both a map of the universe and a map of the human soul. All of these systems reflect the same esoteric truth. The structure of the universe is mirrored within you. So when Hermetic philosophers said, "as above, so below," they weren't talking about superstition or metaphor. They were pointing to a real metaphysical framework, a law that explains not only how the universe works, but also how consciousness works within it. It's not about belief, it's about perception. They were saying, look closer. The answers you're searching for out there are also encoded in here. And when you begin to understand that, something shifts. You stop seeing the world as separate from you. You begin to realize that your inner work is not separate from cosmic work. It's part of the same structure, the same one thing. Surface-level interpretations. In today's spiritual and self-help spaces, you'll hear "as above, so below" used often, but not always accurately. For many, it's become a kind of spiritual soundbite, a catchphrase slapped onto vision boards, quoted in Instagram captions, or thrown into casual conversation to suggest that everything's connected. And while that's not entirely wrong, it's often oversimplified to the point of emptiness. The most common interpretation you'll hear is, "Your outer world reflects your inner world." That's a valuable insight, and yes, it aligns with the principle to a degree. But when left at that surface level, it misses the philosophical and metaphysical depth the original Hermetic teaching was pointing to. Another popular interpretation is the idea of manifestation. Think good thoughts and good things will happen externally. Again, there's a grain of truth here. Our consciousness does shape our experience. But if we reduce the principle to just cause and effect thinking or positive affirmations, we lose the complexity of what "as above, so below" actually describes. This principle isn't just about your mood creating your day or your beliefs attracting outcomes. It's about the structure of existence itself, the idea that there is a mirrored relationship between all levels of reality: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, cosmic. The subtle shapes the material, and the material echoes the subtle. Esoteric teachings didn't use this phrase to sell books or manifest parking spots. They used it to describe how the human being is a reflection of the universe, a complete, energetic system with the same structure and laws found in the stars, the elements, and the divine realm. So yes, your inner world matters. But it's not just because it attracts your reality, it's because your inner world is part of the greater whole. You're not separate from the universe, you're a living expression of it. Understanding this distinction is important. It's the difference between using spiritual language as decoration versus using it as a tool for true transformation. The Macrocosm and Microcosm. To really understand "as above, so below," we have to look at one of the most important concepts in esoteric philosophy: the relationship between the macrocosm and the microcosm. In simple terms, the macrocosm refers to the greater universe, the cosmos, the divine order, the vast energetic structure of reality. The microcosm refers to the smaller reflection of that structure within the human being. The ancient Hermeticists believed that what exists on the largest scale also exists on the smallest, just in different forms. In other words, you are the universe in miniature. Your body, your mind, your soul, they all follow the same blueprint as the stars, the planets, and the unseen dimensions. Esoteric teachings saw the human being not just as a biological organism, but as a living symbol of cosmic order. Take the ancient systems of correspondence, the 7 chakras and the 7 classical planets, the 12 zodiac signs and the 12 cranial nerves, the elements, earth, water, air, fire, and ether, mirrored in both the body and the cosmos. The tree of life in Kabbalah, which maps both divine realms and human psychology. These aren't coincidences or poetic metaphors. They're maps of a unified architecture that exists at every level of reality. Esoteric traditions didn't just study the stars out of curiosity. They studied them because they believed that to understand the cosmos was to understand yourself, and vice versa. Astrology wasn't just about prediction, it was about alignment. It was about recognizing that you are part of a much larger symphony, and that your soul has its own place in that rhythm. The phrase "as above, so below" is a constant reminder that no part of you is separate from the greater whole. Your internal states are not random. Your spiritual evolution is not isolated. You are not a spectator in the universe. You are a living participant in its unfolding. And once you start to see yourself that way, everything begins to shift. Your inner work becomes cosmic work. Your healing becomes part of a greater harmony. The microcosm and macrocosm are not separate. They are one system, mirrored through different scales. The divine blueprint. If as above, so below expresses the relationship between the inner and outer worlds, then the divine blueprint is what connects them. Esoteric traditions have long taught that there's a sacred order beneath the surface of reality, a kind of spiritual architecture that holds everything together. This order isn't visible in a conventional sense, but it can be seen in patterns, structures, and recurring forms that show up across all levels of existence. Think of it like this: reality is not random, it's not chaos dressed up as complexity. There's a design, a geometry that underlies both the cosmos and the self. The ancients didn't just notice these patterns, they understood them as keys to divine intelligence. One of the clearest expressions of this idea is sacred geometry. The spiral, the circle, the vesica piscis, the flower of life, these are more than just pleasing shapes. They are geometrical truths that express how energy moves, how consciousness forms, and how matter emerges from spirit. The same forms that build a shell, a pine cone, a fingerprint, or a galaxy stem from the same archetypal geometry. This is the divine blueprint, a universal pattern repeated endlessly at different scales. You'll find it in architecture, in music, in nature, in the structure of DNA, in the orbit of planets, even in myth and language. The Hermeticists, the Pythagoreans, the Kabbalists, all of them were studying this hidden structure, not just to understand the world, but to align themselves with it. Because here's the core idea: the more you align with the blueprint, the more harmonious your inner and outer life becomes. When your actions reflect that divine structure, when your thoughts, emotions, and choices resonate with universal law, you move from chaos into order, from fragmentation into wholeness. This is why inner work isn't just emotional healing or personal development, it's spiritual alignment. You're tuning your internal world to match the greater pattern of existence. As above, so below is more than a reflection, it's an invitation to consciously live in harmony with the divine architecture that already exists within you. Inner alchemy and self-work. If, as above, so below is a law of reflection, then inner alchemy is the process of transformation that takes place within that mirror. Esoteric philosophy teaches that the true work, the real spiritual path, is not found in rituals or outer appearances, but in the refinement of the self. In alchemical terms, this is called the great work, the transformation of base consciousness into higher consciousness. The turning of lead into gold, not physically, but psychologically and spiritually. And here's where as above, so below becomes personal. The ancient alchemists weren't just experimenting with metals, they were using the language of chemistry and transformation to describe something far deeper, the inner journey of purification, integration, and transcendence. They understood that just as elements undergo transformation in nature, so too must the human soul. Everything you carry inside, your unresolved wounds, your habits, your patterns, those internal dynamics eventually find expression in the world around you. Your relationships, your environment, your choices, even your health, they're all reflections of your inner structure. So if the universe is a mirror, then inner alchemy is the process of changing what's being reflected. This is not about perfection, it's about alignment, about clearing distortion, confronting the shadow, refining your thought patterns, and cultivating spiritual presence. Every internal shift you make ripples outward because the microcosm and macrocosm are not separate systems, they are one. When you do deep inner work, you're not just fixing yourself. You're participating in the harmonization of the larger field. You are literally tuning your individual vibration to better resonate with the universal blueprint we spoke about earlier. And that's the real power of as above, so below. It reminds you that self-work is cosmic work. Your consciousness is not isolated. It's a node in the larger structure. As you rise, you uplift the whole. Inner alchemy doesn't require robes, rituals, or exotic techniques. It starts with awareness, self-honesty, a willingness to observe your internal landscape and begin transmuting the energies within it. Because the truth is, you are the laboratory, you are the crucible, and the gold you're searching for, it's already within you, waiting to be uncovered. The spiritual implication, responsibility. Once you begin to understand the true meaning of as above, so below, it stops being just a philosophical idea. It becomes a challenge, a responsibility. Because if the outer world reflects the inner world, if the structure of reality mirrors the structure of your consciousness, then you are not just a passive observer of life, you are a co-creator of it. This principle asks you to look honestly at your own state of being, not to blame yourself for everything that happens, but to recognize your role in the greater system. Your thoughts, your energy, your choices, they all contribute to the field you live in. They shape what you experience, what you attract, and what you project. In esoteric philosophy, this awareness isn't just spiritual, it's ethical. It means you are accountable for the vibration you carry, the frequency you broadcast, and the patterns you either perpetuate or heal. That's a heavy truth for some because it removes the comfort of blaming the external world for everything. But it also carries immense power because it puts the path to change back in your hands. If you want to transform your outer world, you must start with the inner one. That's not just self-help talk, it's metaphysical law. As above, so below means the energetic structure you hold internally is not isolated from the collective. It interacts with it, feeds it, reflects it. And this works both ways. If you neglect your inner life, if you carry unresolved anger, fear, or distortion, that energy won't stay contained. It will ripple outward into your actions, your relationships, and the world you live in. But if you cultivate presence, clarity, integrity, if you align your internal structure with higher principles, then you become a vessel for harmony, not chaos. This principle calls you to live consciously, to take responsibility not just for your actions, but for your energetic footprint, to recognize that every thought, every word, every emotion has resonance, and that resonance either adds coherence to the world or distorts it. So when you hear, as above, so below, don't just hear mysticism, hear a call to inner mastery, not just for your own growth, but as a contribution to the greater balance of all things. Beyond duality, unity in reflection. So far, we've explored how as above, so below describes a mirrored relationship between realms, between the inner and outer, spirit and matter, self and cosmos. But there's another layer beneath that, a deeper truth that esoteric philosophy often points toward. There is no true separation in the first place. The reflection exists, yes, but only because everything is already part of a single unified field. Most people interpret as above, so below through the lens of duality, two things mirroring each other like a cosmic cause and effect. But the deeper esoteric traditions, Hermeticism, Kabbalah, Gnosticism, Advaita, and others, all eventually arrive at the same understanding. There is only one thing. What appears as above and below is only a division created by perception. The inner and outer worlds aren't two separate realities. They are different expressions of the same underlying source. The reflection exists because there is only one essence being reflected in infinite forms. When you look at your own life, your thoughts, your emotions, your experiences, you're not just witnessing reflections of something higher. You're witnessing the one thing experiencing itself through you. In Hermetic terms, that one thing is often called the All, the infinite, unknowable source that gives rise to everything. In other traditions, it's called Brahman, the Absolute, the Divine Mind. The names change, but the principle is the same. Everything is interconnected because everything is the same substance, just vibrating at different frequencies. So, as above, so below is not just about reflection, it's about integration, about dissolving the illusion of separation and realizing that the divine is not up there while you're down here. It's all happening in one continuum. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe, appearing in a unique form. When you understand this, spiritual practice becomes less about seeking something beyond yourself and more about recognizing what's already within you. Enlightenment isn't found in escape. It's found in alignment with your true nature. The duality dissolves, and what's left is unity, pure consciousness expressed in infinite mirrors. That's the deeper power of as above, so below. It doesn't just describe a pattern, it invites you to remember that you and the pattern are one. Modern relevance. You might be wondering, this is all fascinating, but how does it apply to life now? In the middle of a noisy, chaotic world filled with distractions, stress, and uncertainty, what does as above, so below really mean for the way we live? The answer, everything. This principle isn't just ancient philosophy, it's a guide for navigating modern life with clarity, purpose, and inner alignment. In a world that constantly pulls us outward, this teaching reminds us to return inward, to see that the true source of balance, order, and change doesn't come from external systems, but from internal structure. We live in a time where people are overwhelmed with information, yet starved for meaning. We're constantly reacting to surface-level noise, news cycles, social media, polarized opinions, without addressing the deeper layers underneath. But as above, so below calls us to look beyond the noise, to realize that the external world is just a mirror, and if we want to shift what we see out there, we have to work on what's happening in here. This applies to everything. Your relationships mirror your inner patterns. Your career reflects your sense of value and purpose. Even collective issues like fear, division, or disconnection often stem from inner wounds that haven't been addressed on a large scale. That's why self-work is world work. When you bring more coherence, integrity, and presence into your own life, you ripple that out into your environment. You shift conversations, you raise the vibration of the spaces you enter, you stop feeding cycles of chaos and start emanating order, clarity, and calm. You also stop outsourcing your power. You stop waiting for the world to fix itself or for someone else to give you direction. You begin to understand that you are part of the pattern, not separate from it, not at the mercy of it. This principle also helps you trust the process. Life becomes less about control and more about alignment. You begin to see synchronicities not as random luck, but as signals that your internal and external states are syncing up. You start to live more intuitively, more consciously, more connected. So no, it's not just ancient wisdom locked in dusty texts, it's a living principle, a timeless compass. And in a chaotic world, as above, so below might be one of the most important reminders we have. As above, so below isn't just a phrase from an ancient tablet, it's a principle that still pulses through everything around you and within you. It's a reminder that the universe isn't something separate from you, it's something expressed through you. Your thoughts, your energy, your choices, they're not isolated events. They're part of a larger pattern, part of a greater structure that connects all things. When you begin to see the world this way, everything changes. You stop chasing surface solutions. You stop looking outside yourself for meaning, power, or peace. Instead, you start refining your inner world, knowing that when you change the pattern within, the reflection must change without. That's the real work. And it's not always easy, but it's real, and it's yours to do. So ask yourself, What patterns am I carrying that are shaping my reality? Where can I bring more alignment between my inner life and the life I'm creating? What am I reflecting into the world, and is it conscious or unconscious? If this video spoke to something in you, leave a comment below. Share how as above, so below shows up in your life or how you're working with it now. And if you're on the path of inner transformation, remember, the universe is already in you. You're not separate from it. You never were. Thanks for watching. Stay conscious, stay connected, stay aligned.